In the name of Almighty Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, the most benevolent. Our session relates to corporate governance regulations meant for listed companies. And in our discussion, we will discuss regulations 20 to 24, which deals with chief financial officer, company secretary, and head of internal audit. In this chapter, we will discuss at length their duties. We will discuss their approvals, their removals, etc. So let's start this discussion, and let me invite Mr. Hamdan Khan first to share Regulation 20 with the participants. Mr. Hamdan Khan. Ms. Minail Amir, can you take the turn, please?
Yes, sir. Contracts and terms and conditions of employment of Chief Financial Officer, Company Secretary, and Head of Internal Audit Officer.
Right. So, of course, this is the word shall denote that this is the board of directors' duty to appoint CFO for the company, chief financial officer, to appoint company secretary and head of internal audit. These three, in fact, very important uh, personnels for a company. They have their key importance for the better functioning of the company, and this right or this assignment is compulsorily given to the board of directors, and they are supposed to determine the remuneration, the terms and conditions of the contract, the length of service, the package in terms of financial remuneration or honorarium. So, this is the duty of the board of directors. Regulation 21 deals with the removal. So, let's have a look. Let me invite Ms. Hira Nadeem to share Regulation 21 with the participants. Ms. Hira, please.
Sure, sir. So the Regulation 21 is about the removal. It says the removal of the Chief Financial Officer, Company Secretary, and Head of Internal Audit of a company shall be made with the approval of the board, provided that the Head of Internal Audit may be removed only upon recommendation of the Audit Committee.
Absolutely right. So, in order to have that internal management, there are committees underneath the board of directors, and the audit committee is if this audit committee is of the view that the uh, in fact these appointees they are not fulfilling their duties, and especially the head of internal audit. If there is a question of his removal, then the matter initially or the matter will be initiated in the audit committee. An audit committee will give its recommendations to the board of directors, and in this case, in this manner, the head of internal audit can be removed from his office. So this regulation deals with the removal of head of internal audit. Now let's discuss the qualification of CFO, Chief Financial Officer. Let me request another mate of our class, Miss Aisha Zafar, to do the reading, please. Miss Aisha Zafar. Miss Tahreem Nadeem, qualification of Chief Financial Officer.
Qualification of Chief Financial Officer. No person shall be appointed as the CFO of a company unless 1. He or she has at least 3 years of managerial experience in the field of audit or accounting or in managing financial or corporate affairs functions of a company, and is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan or Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Pakistan. Second, he or she has at least 5 years of managerial experience in fields of audit or accounting or in managing financials or corporate affairs functions of a company and is either a member of professional body of accountants whose qualification is recognized as equivalent to postgraduate degree by Higher Commission of Pakistan or has a postgraduate degree in finance from a university in Pakistan or equivalent recognized and approved by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. Third, he or she has at least 7 years of managerial experience in fields of audit or accounting or in managing financial or corporate affairs functions of a company and has a suitable degree from university in Pakistan or abroad equivalent to graduate degree recognized and approved by Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, provided that the existing CFO of a listed company having at least 15 years of experience on the same position in a listed company shall be exempted from qualification criteria given above.
Absolutely right. So this proviso is given in terms of the qualification or in terms of the criteria which is manifested in these regulations. There is an exemption is given, and we'd like to read that exemption once again. Miss Tehreem, can you read that provision again, please? Proviso again.
Provided that existing CFO of a listed company having at least 15 years of experience on the same position in a listed company shall be exempted from qualification criteria given above.
Absolutely. So you see, in terms of experience, if the CFO has the basic qualification, and he has been serving in another listed company for a reasonable period of time, then he can be exempted from that stringent criterion in terms of qualification, because this is deemed appropriate that someone who is serving in the listed companies, he is well acquainted with the policies of the sector. He is well acquainted with the regulations meant for the corporate sector, and he's also well versed with the application and compliance and execution of those policies. So this is the reason that even the experience is equated with certain levels of qualifications, because through experience you do learn the niceties which are meant for running the affairs, which are meant for making the listed companies up to the mark, up to the requirement, which are meant for ensuring that the listed companies are performing in a manner which is conducive, which is congenial, which is beneficial for the stakeholders. So this is why there is a strict criteria given, and at the same time, there are certain exemptions given. And there is, as I said earlier, that there is a clear rationale or logic behind this exemption, which is in terms of experience serving in the same sector, that is corporate sector, and especially working for the listed companies. Now, the next key personnel for the management of a company is the internal auditor. We'd like to go through the qualification of internal auditor. Let me invite Ms. Minail Amir to do the reading for the participants.
Yes, sir. Of
Yes, Ms. Minail Amir. Perhaps there is some connectivity issue with Ms. Benail. Let me request Ms. Aisha Zafar to do this reading. Qualification of internal auditor.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Please, qualification of internal auditor, please.
Okay. Qualification of internal auditor. No person shall be appointed as the head of internal audit unless first, he she has 3 years of relevant experience in audit or finance or compliance function and is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan or Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Pakistan. Or second, he she has 5 years of relevant experience in audit or finance or compliance function, and A is a certified internal auditor, or B is the certified fraud examiner, or C is a certified internal control auditor, or D has a postgraduate degree in business, finance from a university or equivalent recognized and approved by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, and is a member of a professional body relevant to such qualification if applicable. 3. She has at least 7 years of managerial experience in fields of audit or accounting or in managing financial or corporate affairs functions of the company and has a suitable degree from a university in Pakistan or abroad, equivalent to graduate degree recognized and approved by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. Explanation. The expression body of professional accountants means body of professional accountants 1 established in Pakistan, governed under a special enactment of the federal government as a self-regulatory organization managed by a representative national council and has a prescribed minimum criterion of examination and entitlement of membership of such body, or 2 established outside Pakistan under a special enactment in the country of its origin and is the member of the International Federation of Accountants. Provided that existing head of internal audit of a listed company having at least 15 years of experience on the same position in the listed company shall be exempted from qualification criteria given above.
Absolutely right. So here, while a certain qualification criterion is given, at the same time, this is made mandatory that the relevant professional must have his membership intact with the professional bodies, chartered accountants, organizations. They ensure that their members are having hands-on training. Their members are having, all modern trainings meant for modern practices in terms of corporate governance. So this is why the law has made it compulsory that the relevant professional in the field must be a member of the professional body. If I talk about the profession of law, the lawyers worldwide are required to have the compulsory membership of their bar associations and bar councils, because bar councils are meant for regulating their affairs. So those organizations, since they are meant for regulating the working of the professionals, this is why, in order to be employed for a listed company in this key position, this is required that the relevant professional must be a part of the professional body. Because professional body, on one hand, is meant for enhancing their skills or providing them, programs which are meant for their capacity building. And on the other hand, these professional organizations are there to regulate the conduct of an individual and enable him to follow the best practices in the field. Before we move on to the next personnel, that is the company secretary, let's recap the aspects regarding the internal auditor. I'd like Ms. Hira to reiterate the points for the internal auditor we discussed. Ms. Hira Nadeem, Ms. Aisha Zafar, Mr. Kamran Shaukat,
Sir, I've joined the session late, but what I have heard is of a regulator or an auditor in the companies.
yes. So I think it is appropriate if I'll ask you to quickly recap what we have discussed for the auditor, and some of the aspects regarding his qualification we have discussed. And that, in fact, regulation, which is Regulation 23 of the Corporate Governance Regulations meant for the listed companies. Let's quickly recap this regulation. Mr. Kamran Shaukat, please.
Should I read this or I recap? Give a
Yes,
recap.
yes, you may read it verbatim.
Okay, okay. Qualification of an internal auditor. No person shall be appointed as the head of the internal audit unless he or she has 3 years of relevant experience in the audit or finance or compliance function, and it is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan or Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Pakistan. Or he or she has 5 years of relevant experience in audit or finance or compliance function. And number A is a certified internal auditor, or is a certified fraud examiner, or is a certified internal control auditor, or has a postgraduate degree in business finance from a university or equivalent recognized and approved by Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, and is a member of professional body relevant to such qualification if applicable. He or she has at least 7 years of managerial experience in fields of audit or accounting, or in managing financial or corporate affairs functions of a company, and has a suitable degree from a university in Pakistan or abroad equivalent to graduate degree, recognized and approved by the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. Explanation: the expression body of professional accountants means body of professional accountants established in Pakistan, governed under a special en- enactment of the federal government as a self-regulatory organization managed by a representative national council, and has a prescribed minimum criterion of examination and entitlement of membership of such body or established outside Pakistan under a special enactment in the country of its origin, and is a member of the International Federation of Accountants, provided that existing head of the internal audit of a listed company having at least 15 years of experience on the uh, same position listed in a listed company shall be exempted from the qualification criteria given above.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamran Shaukat. And this is how Regulation 23, which is very comprehensive, and that covers all the aspects in terms of qualification, in terms of experience, in terms of length of service, and at the end, in this proviso, as I said earlier, that your experience in the relevant sector or in the corporate sector is considered valuable, and with this consideration, there is an exemption given that if you have adequate experience in the corporate sector and working for the listed company, and you are the member of professional body, which is a regulator as well, which has come into being under the statutory provisions of law. If I quote an example, we have discussed here the auditors, and same is the case with chartered accountants, same is the case with lawyers, same is the case with doctors. We have College of Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan, which is to regulate the affairs of its members, which are commonly known as CPSPs. So basically, in all professional organizations, this is important that one must be having the membership of the professional body, because those professional bodies are meant for their capacity building, are meant for regulating their conduct when they act as professionals. And this is why, while seeking an assignment as an auditor for a listed company, this is a primary, focused, and vital requirement. Now, in this chapter, the topic, the last regulation, is meant for the company secretary. Let me invite Ms. Binail Amir to do this reading, please. I can't hear you, Miss Benail.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Sir, from the 24th point.
Yes, please.
Okay. Qualification of company secretary. No person shall be appointed as the company secretary unless he holds the qualification as specified under the relevant regulations by the Commission, provided the same person shall not simultaneously hold office of CFO and the company secretary of a listed company.
Absolutely right. So, whereas the qualification criteria is given, there is an embargo also. There is a limitation also that the company secretary cannot be one who is chief financial officer of the company. And this segregation is having its logic, is having its rationale, and the lucidity behind this segregation is that chief financial officer and the company secretary, these are the key posts, these are the personnels who are meant for the appropriate, up to the mark working of the listed company. So if both offices are given to one person, that may undermine the role in another capacity. So in order to do things in an appropriate manner, in an accurate manner, this embargo, this compulsion is placed in law that one cannot hold the both offices of chief financial officer and the company secretary. So here we conclude our today's session on the topics of these three key professionals. And if there is any question before we conclude, please. Right. I hope all the participants have assimilated these points, and the regulations are, in fact, self explanatory. And this has also emphasized that the role of these key personnels are meant for the successful working of the company, and their role is also to safeguard the legitimate, lawful, and legal interests of the stakeholders and the shareholders, who are the key stakeholders in any company. With these words, thank you very much for your participation.